Hi everyone, SoulSuper17 here. Let me get rid of this like usual. Download these pictures, not pay video. Well, download the picture, not pay video. Made the thumbnail. I'm surprised. I know that I shouldn't be, but the fact is, I'm kind of really surprised people asked for like a part 2 of this. I mean, even though it has not been watched that long, and some people will actually find the concept interesting or cool, which I'm grateful for. I literally just came up with this idea, and I didn't suspect it to actually become a good one, or people ask for like a part 2. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a content creator that just makes what ifs and hope for the best. uh, well, here's part 2. I started thinking this one right away. I was gonna make the Kakashi, and then after I make the Bell one, Naruto, not Naruto. Too many solo leveling what ifs. Deku. It's just like, I know how I'm gonna do it, but it's like all the S rank heroes that I'm gonna bring in from, because it's basically, if no one knows, or people have read basically the manga, webcomic or light novel, whatever. Basically in Korea, that's where everything takes place. So those people are coming in. Some of the characters, probably from America, are coming in, just gonna become hunters, and I'm trying to figure out how they're gonna interact. So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. How they're gonna interact with basically Izuku Midoriya. So that's the only problem I'm having. Even though I basically don't know the characters right away, because I'm just gonna be like bringing some of them in, and then go to a part where something happens and Izuku becomes really angry and decides to, I don't know, destroy something. But yeah, that's not what we're here for. We're here to basically this, and I kind of looked up some things, and I did not know how powerful I became. Because I kind of look on basically for the Percy Jackson, wiki, or fandom wiki, about basically what Athena, basically children get out of, even Artemis, Persephone, just, I didn't look up much. All I know is that there are some things I may bring in if I remember. If not, then I'll be looking some stuff up, like trying to figure out which ones would I basically get. But to be fair, since I have actually a lot of freaking power in my hands that I did not know, I kind of think like it's a good thing I'm trying to make this version of me train my butt off and get these powers and master them before I basically become OP, which is I'm gonna be going through probably multiple of the book series. So yeah, and I just put a log in. What the heck? Give me a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, so yeah, I just want to say this though. I know there's gonna be some characters that are not gonna seem like that should be like basically doing this, but to be fair, they only saw from my perspective, so they are gonna be changing over time. Like you'll find out what I'm gonna do with Poseidon, but the fact is, we all know how Poseidon is. If no one knows from the Percy Jackson series, I will say basically what I, have learned from what I basically think he's like, because of his interactions with Zeus from the first book. So yeah. So anyways, hope you guys basically like this part. So yeah. So I just basically arrived at Camp Half-Blood after receiving multiple things and basically getting having a minor creation power from Chaos, which I'm going to technically train. I literally have to train for everything, so makes sense. I have to train that too. But to be fair though, I basically don't realize the amount of trouble I'm in yet. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know yet. So yeah, so I just arrived at camp, introduced myself as Jack, and then I say nickname, call me Zero. And everyone is just blinking at me. And then Chiron's like, Jack. Your name is Jack. I'm like, uh-huh. Last name? Don't really have one. Don't really need it. Don't see the point. Which, basically, he's like, huh. Well then, young Jack. Which I'm like, yeah. So, which one of you is, wait a minute, Centaur? You're Chiron, aren't you? The trainer of heroes? Which she's like, well, you basically read up in Greek mythology, haven't you? I'm like, uh-huh, pretty much. Had to. My parents told me I basically had to learn. Which, basically, everyone was just blinking. I'm like, so, can I get a tour around this place? As I just smile when I say that. As for some odd reason, I know Chiron look at me as his eyes wide, and then basically he has a sad look in his eye, and I'm thinking in my head, like, oh, yeah, trainer of heroes. He knows basically, well, the different, different people for all the, amount of training he has done with other heroes. He knows when someone's hiding their true emotions. Or when they don't really have many. Man, how long was I even in that void? It couldn't have been that long, seriously, though. As before anything can happen, I hear something. And it sounds like I only heard it basically from certain, basically, events in my past. As I look into the distance, straight towards what I believe will be New York City. So, meanwhile, before, when I arrived, we are going to go to a couple of God's perspectives. Now, here's the thing. Hera's a mother, and from my knowledge on what Hera has done, basically, from my perspective, and also what I basically think about Hephaestus has really got the short end, the stick, and everything, I do believe this is how she would be. So, Hera's basically walking to Hephaestus' temple, and she's thinking, I gotta do this. I got to. He's my son, and I treated him so badly. No, Hera. Just do this. You have to get this off your chest. You may be basically the queen of Olympus, but you are his mother. It's time for you to act like it. Even if he may hate me. So, when she basically enters Hephaestus' temple, Hephaestus notices but don't really mind it. Because he's used to people coming in and barging in. So, he's just working on something. Basically, Hephaestus realized right away what is going to happen. So he basically is making something that he saw a design of a bracelet that would may be able to basically help in this situation for me. So, the fact is, when basically Hera basically comes in, she goes, Hephaestus, which Hephaestus goes like, yes, Hera. Basically, she's like, she kind of flinches a bit. She goes, I want to talk to you about something. Which he basically can hear her basically kind of being cautious in her wording. And when she stops and looks at her, he goes, with a raised eyebrow, he goes, that is. She goes, I want to apologize for everything. In which this, she's looking down and his eyebrows are raised because he's shocked, and he doesn't say nothing because she just continues. She says she basically, I want to apologize for what I did when you were basically just born and how I treated you throughout your childhood. Basically, she can't get the words out because tears start to, come down basically from her eyes because she's now crying from the memories and basically saying, I neglected you and focused everything on Ares, and basically I should have paid attention to you both and now her emotions are getting all haywire and such, and basically this actually catches Hephaestus off guard. Like, he never suspected this would ever happen. That she would be apologizing before he even knows she's on her knees, basically just crying out and saying that she even put him in a loveless marriage because she was trying to make it, or at least suggested it to Zeus. I'm not 100% sure, but just for this case, if I'm basically correct, Zeus did it because he wanted his son, but I think it was also Hera also suggested. Yeah, no, I can't remember a lot of things from basically Greek mythology, but there are some details I just can't remember. So I'm saying it's between Zeus, doing it, Hera suggesting it to Zeus, and Zeus doing it. If it's just either one, then yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I'm covered that. But yeah, and basically, Hephaestus does walk over to basically Hera slowly as she does his crime because, all the guilt and over the years of never basically, even basically noticing him until it was too late. She basically, was crying out because she realizes there truly is no chance that they can ever try to have basically a basically mother-son relationship or any basic connection just besides basically being two gods. And then what shocked her is basically she feels someone basically hugging her. And then she hears Hephaestus' voice. He goes, "Mother, please, stop crying. I can forgive you for everything, but I won't forget. I can clearly tell that you meant everything. Now, tell me, why did you even decide to say these things after all these years, centuries even?" In which she basically, hugging Hephaestus and basically still through tears saying it's all because of, Jack. In which his eyes widen and then he chuckles. He goes, "I see. The memories of him. You've seen basically from a more perspective on your actions." In which she nods and he goes, "I can't believe how I basically acted. And since I only know very little from my perspective and from what I know and basically from basically the videos I watch from other basically videos where there's just say Naruto and Percy Jackson, basically they kind of basically show where, I'm just saying for other videos, there's kind of a show where Hera is basically just being Hera in the myth, along with basically, caring for Hephaestus or, doesn't know where she went wrong with Ares, all that just, all that stuff basically happening, which I don't really know, how should I say, much how Hera would be besides her being her, what I think she would be. And kind of basically going through some of the other books where they talk, have Hera talking and such. So, yeah. So this is kind of what I just think she would do, because technically speaking, she would think for, basically both Ares and Hephaestus was basically a failure, but then kind of from my point of view, it kind of just, shows differently. So, yeah, that's the reason why, in which after basically, she's calmed down and basically, they both stop hugging each other, basically. Hephaestus just sighs and be like, "From his perspective, you saw I basically achieved everything on my own, but it was not the way you wanted me to be raised. And then you finally realized you basically somewhat neglected me after all this time because of Ares." In which she would nod. In which he goes, "If you never done that, then I would never become the god I am. That's the reason why I can forgive you, but I will never forget. If you want to basically things to basically go the way you want for us to become a son and mother basically bond, then you have to earn it. In which he gets up and walks, and she basically is shocked. She goes, "Earn it?" But which he looks, basically he would basically be walking, then he stops and looks at her. He goes, and it has a smirk. Goes like, from a moral point of view, from basically my new son, he's right. People have to earn respect, not be given. I've basically seen too much basically of his memories already for it. Those basically are the ones that stuck to me right away when I viewed them. Respect is earned, not given. God should also be earned respect from each other, not just be given it. In which basically, as she also basically views those memories as she does nod slowly, she goes, I'll try. And she basically gets up and wiping away the tears with her hands. She goes, so what are you doing? He goes, he's going back to his work. He would say, I'm making something for basically Jack. He's gonna be in a lot of trouble if he leaves camp. In which she basically does, thinks about it, then her eyes widen. She goes, all of our, which basically he nods. He goes, two basically gods of the big three, plus the Queen of Olympus, and basically other members of the council. His blood is within plus a primordial. He's in danger, big time danger. In which basically Hera basically gets serious and basically goes, do you need me to help? In which basically Hephaestus' eyes widen and looks at her and she can see he's in shock. He goes, You're willing to help? You're willing to help me? She nods. Basically he goes, I am his mother too, are I not? In which then she sees him smile and goes like, right. I'll just ask you to get me basically what I need. Basically, there's a lot of stuff here, but I'll basically point you or have some of my robots, of my creations to help you. Alright, Mom? In which she just nods. She basically, saying what does she need, and he basically tells her basically like something for protection, like gloves, and basically, and I would say apron, but it's basically way more heavy duty, so it's, should be able to help. The ones that basically blacksmiths wore. So, yeah. So basically while that's going on, and basically she's getting some things for basically, Hephaestus, she basically asks, what's this bracelet of? Or design? In which basically Hephaestus goes, this is basically to help him, suppress basically his scent, you can say, or aura. In truth, basically, is somewhat to suppress his basically power, to basically made aware it could be a minor god's child. Not basically supposed to be that big. So where basically the stronger monsters won't come after him. In which her basically eyes widen, she goes, that's ingenious. But why does it look so... Which he basically smirks, he goes, well, you should basically realize, Mother, this basically bracelet is from basically a video game that he played. Or basically watched the anime of. Where basically she blinks and then she kind of basically trying to, think of where it's from, and then her eyes widen and goes like, God Eater. In which he does nod. So, after basically a few more minutes, she goes, Can I ask you about basically your marriage? In which basically Hephaestus pauses but then doesn't say nothing. He goes like, do I still care for Aphrodite? In truth, which she nods. Which he just sighs again. He goes, well, in truth, I do not, per se, I have the same feelings as I did a long time ago. Unknown to them, someone's listening to this conversation now. And when she's blinking, she just goes, continue, goes, after everything she's done, I sort of gave up on her, you could say. And not basically pursue her anymore. I don't even try. Because, after all, I am also to blame for my own situation. In which her eyes basically just blink. She goes, how? He goes, well, from basically what I understand, from basically the myths and other events, I basically, if I remember correctly, I didn't pay attention to her much. And so then she went towards Ares. She didn't want to be even married to me to begin with, so She tried to make it work, and I basically didn't. Can you blame me? I, well, supposedly, if I remember correctly, after so long, did I even, was she in my first relationship? Which he basically pauses and is actually thinking, which Hera can just see him basically think. He was, well, I believe she was my very first relationship, or, well, person I gained feelings for. So I didn't know what to do. And to be honest, I was so madly in love with her. Anytime she tried to talk to me, I kind of went on autopilot mode. She was autopilot was, I can sometimes work and basically be thinking of something else and still do my work so well. I just basically finished the job without even realizing it. So I sort of, maybe only anytime she taught, I may have basically just blacked out from work and just pay attention to her talking. In which basically Hera basically goes like, but I never answered back. Besides, I was also working on so many projects back then. So, to be honest, I honestly don't mind if she basically doesn't even care about the marriage anymore, as long as she's basically happy. So, I mean, he just shrugs about it. So then Hera's like, but still. But why do you always seem like you're upset with, goes, it's because of Ares. After everything. Basically, I just get sick of him. He always gloats about everything. It's annoying. And it always basically pisses me off, so of course I'll be mad and furious and do what I do to them. But doesn't matter. Hold up. So basically Hera just, would look away a bit and be upset, which basically he basically look at his, festival, look at Hera and just say, it's not your fault, mother. It's mine. After all, I was also working on a project for her, which I was going to basically keep it as a surprise. But I destroyed it the day I found out. Well, in which basically Hera's eyes wide and she goes, that necklace you melted, which he nods. And so though, but Hera basically looks around her son's workshop and she basically notices weapons, shields, bows, just whatever it's in a cabinet. She goes, why are those weapons there? Which he looks over to the side and he just kind of just, well, he kind of just doesn't take a second, well, I would say not a second glance because he takes like 5 minutes and then he just goes back to working on basically the, bracelet. If you know a god ear bracelet arm that basically is that it goes around the wrist, then yeah, it's freaking big. But anyways, so basically you could say it's not really a bracelet, but yeah, like I say, anyways, so a festival will just say this. Oh, those are for basically Aphrodite's kids, in which Hera's just slowly looked at him in shock. She goes, you made them for, which he just looks at her basically stop again from working. Goes like, just because she does not basically care about our marriage because it's just nothing to her now, just word. I'm still gonna care for her kids because they're technically are mine, step kids. Which she goes, but why don't they have their? Which he sighs again and goes like, because they are not basically fighters. They do not want to fight, so whenever basically I can give a chance to, I'll give them it. If they ever accept it. Just hopefully Jack could potentially maybe sway them to basically train so they don't get hurt. In which basically that actually shocks Hera, and basically she would smile at him because like, you care for her still, do you? In which his face goes a little red. He goes like, even though I say I don't, I still can't get over her. okay? I admit it. In which she just chuckles. Unknown to them, the person outside is crying, and she teleports back to her temple. And she's basically grabs it, just jumps onto her bed and starts crying. Because she cannot believe what she heard. Now, we go to Poseidon, who is, technically speaking, sighing because he called it his wife. I did not look up her name, so actually I'm going to look that up now. Okay, I'm going to try to say, even though I said it already, I'm probably going to mess it up. Aphrodite. He called her, to his, basically, room. And when she enters, she basically kind of is, looking upset at him. Which he sighs and he thinks to himself, she's still mad at me for, because she found out about Percy. He goes, hello there, beloved. She goes, Poseidon. In which he just sighs and basically catches her off guard a bit. He basically says, please sit. In which she'll sit down on the bed and he just, basically standing across from her while she's basically sitting. He goes, okay, I'm going to tell you something, but here's the thing. I am not the only one who has done this. Which she basically is kind of thinking another affair. Basically he had another kid. She's about to say something, he holds up his hand, he goes like, let me explain. She basically gives him the motion to go on. He just nods and says, the fates called upon us gods, primordials, or basically whoever it could be, just to answer them. And a few of me, basically gods, including me, were, answered the call, and we were basically summoned to a place where no one has ever been to. A void of a destroyed realm, or, dimension, which basically Aphrodite's eyes widen and she can't believe it, and he then says, and the fates were there, and one other, a human, a mortal. We did not know why we were there for, but the fates have asked us to basically adopt I would say boy, because he's younger than any of us gods, but in mortal terms, an adult. In which Aphrodite's eyes widen even more, and she goes, and you didn't decide to, because she put two and two together, which he sighs again. He goes, to be fair, I don't think you would even basically listen to me, or even answer my call, or Lady Chaos's call. In which basically Aphrodite's eyes widen, and she goes, wait, Lady Chaos? Which he says Chaos took on basically a female form, so yes, Lady Chaos. In which she nods slowly, which Lady Chaos also adopted this child. Which she just basically cannot believe it. She's speechless. So Hades and basically told Persephone, and she agreed to it. And I want to tell you this before I ever claim him along with the others. I want you to know ahead of time. I did not have basically another child. I basically had adoption of said mortal. She goes, who else was there besides Hades and Persephone? Athena, Artemis, Hera, Hephaestus. In which basically that just shocks her. She goes, 7 gods? And 7 gods and goddesses all together plus our primordial? Is he basically another titan or god? Which he nods no. She goes, how is that even possible then? Lady Chaos basically used magic on basically the chalice that was made of her blood. to basically merge all of our bloods together just to make one blood, you can say, to make him 50% demigod. And no matter how much blessings he gets from other gods, his divine blood will only still remain at 50%. In which basically Aphrodite realizes, and she goes, wait, you don't realize it, don't you? Which he basically, think he doesn't, he looks at her confusedly. She goes, just realize he has a primordial blood. You said the chalice was made of blood, right? Which he nods. He goes, yes. And after basically he was finished drinking the blood, the chalice turned back into blood, and he drank that. And then he basically gets the picture. He goes, then he goes like, oh no. He's in great danger. That's why the fates allowed him to get more power. As then he curses in Greek, and basically he basically starts walking towards the door, but then he stops. He looks at basically Aphrodite, and he does say, "Beloved, I hope you don't view him as some sort of, well, another affair that I had with you." In which she nods no. She just says, just tell me, how did he survive? And what's the reason for him being brought here? Which basically he just says, my father. The fates don't know how he survived, but Lady Chaos thinks it's because of basically my father. But the boy has unusual amount of basically luck. She goes, huh? His luck is basically can be good or bad. He can make sometimes the impossible possible. It's abnormal. As then he just chuckles at that. In which she says, so he could have survived without it? Survived basically a whole entire annihilation of what? His dimension? Which basically he nods. It may be impossible, but if he did then, who knows how long he was in the void for. But he has probably lost his emotions, where he just cannot feel them, besides a few. But I'm going to go basically to the Cyclopses. I'm going to ask them to make him something to protect him. And I'll be back. I have to make a soft dough after them. She basically goes, what you have to do, goes, he just looks at her, basically, when he opens up the door, he says, for the sake of basically not to cause any problems for my new son, I have to basically swallow my pride. In which, basically, that would kind of shock her as he walks away. And she thinks, he would do that? Could it be that badly? As then basically Poseidon goes over basically, everything that, again, but this time slower to see basically before my moments, basically, my dimension being destroyed. So, he kind of decides and just says, he's lost too much. And now this, I really have to basically do what I need to do. I hate it. I truly hate it. But I'm not going to let my arrogance or pride get in the way. We brought someone into our dimension, and we have to take responsibility. I can raise him. As then basically, clutches his scythe that he summons, and his fists are becoming, his knuckles are becoming white. Because he basically, clenching the trident too much. Not too much, too hard. So, yeah. I know what that's meant, but basically when you grip something, basically, with all your strength, and basically your knuckles become white, it basically, showing how he's really angry. Or determined. He's a little bit of both. Because he basically knows I am not basically a part of that world, so there are basically some rules that they still have to follow, but there's a lot of them that they don't have to follow, so raising me or talking to me, meeting me, is not part of that rule. So that's why he has a determined look and basically anger because he's not gonna let no one stop him. Hold up. Okay, so basically, Poseidon does then teleport to basically where the Cyclops are, and he will basically give them a order to basically fulfill. Now, we go to basically the underworld, and Hades is just sighing. He basically says, "I cannot believe I did this," and Persephone is there, which Hades is shocked to even see her. He goes, Persephone, aren't you supposed to be back up there? She goes, yes, but I want to talk to you about something. In which basically he would just sigh and be like, yes, there's something I need to do first though. Which she's like, huh? And so basically, to be a shocker, basically Hades would get on his knees and technically, well, and basically bow to her, which she would be shot by this, and some of the guards are shot, and he would just say only loud enough for her to hear. He goes like, I'm very sorry for everything. In which basically Persephone eyes wide and she would go up to him and basically, take him off, because his head would be, on the ground bowing. Which he thought this would be the best way of taking it from the Japanese or from the anime, because technically speaking, he did see basically, like I said, my memories too and such, and basically Persephone does make him happy, and he would be different around her, so it works for him to apologize to her. And so she basically lifts him up, at least his head, and she then just sees the actual, look that basically he's, sorrowful, regrets, and just overall basically doesn't know what to say to her anymore. And that kind of hurts her. And basically she hugs him and saying that even if basically what the myths say, or mythology says about you trapping me and such here, we did work it out and I, do care for you. Which, to be honest, I have not basically got, like I said, gone into the series where it has said much. So all my knowledge is basically from different, basically other Percy, Jackson what ifs with Naruto in it and such. But here's the thing: since this is technically my what if, and I'm not going off of that, I'm actually saying it basically mythology wise. If it's true, in the book ahead of time, okay. But if it's not, then this is basically how I think it is. Basically, Persephone, did not basically want to be with Hades. He captured her and such, and she honestly did not want to basically stay with him. But there is basically that, well, technically there is where someone would basically get used to where they, basically, basically where they are, and then basically fall in love with someone when that's told them. But I actually would think, though, Hades has tried to basically, make her happy and such, and actually show that he actually truly does care, and that kind of is different because he actually was showing he actually cared for her and such. So, in a sense, yeah, in a sense, basically that's how I think it's going. Their relationship is, in which he just says, "But still, I kidnapped you and took you here forcefully, even tricked you to, be with me. I'm just." In which basically she just says lonely, and that's why you have demigod children, which he would just nod slowly. And now she can see from perspective, like I said, from my perspective, how I thought, basically how I think. Technically speaking, I do think anytime I hear about Hades' legends or myths, it's just not fair for him. I truly believe that, and being alone in the underworld had no one there for who knows how long before he fell in love with Persephone. It's a lonely, and you just basically go, your mind will go into places, and you become cold eventually and become cruel, which Persephone has seen now that over time, or, well, anytime she's around him, he's always different. So, basically, she decides to go like, yes, like I said, the mythology is real. To the word, I would have basically hated you and never basically cared for you. But I have basically truly fell in love with you, Hades. And that's the reason why I became your queen. In which basically Hades' eyes widen and she actually sees tears falling down his face. And she then realizes he may have been afraid that she always hates him. And he then basically hugs her, basically, she only can hear him saying thank you. Basically, for loving him. In which, basically, she just sighs and just, because this is one thing that she never really thought, all the way he acts and such. She always reminds herself the way he acts and how he feels, he's not good at showing his emotions. So, basically, after a few minutes of hugging and him still, crying for a bit, after that's all done, he goes, so, oh, why did you, well, come here right away? Is it about our new, which she does not. She goes, yes, do you think we should give him something? After all, he's going to be in danger a lot more than any other demigod. Which Hades then narrows his eyes and nods. He basically looks at some guards. He goes, guards, find basically a legendary blacksmith in Elysium. Basically in the underworld's heaven, where everyone wants to go into. I think it's Elysium, but yeah. So which they nod and such and, would do so. In which she goes, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go do something. So, but he basically, while he's waiting for basically Persephone, he senses someone's coming. Because it does take a couple minutes. So, when basically someone arrives, he basically hears the voice, Lord Hades, why are the guards basically going to Elysium, basically finding a blacksmith? Which he basically blinks and then he goes, ha, nix. Of course you would have basically found out. I have a question for you. Which she goes, what is it, basically, Lord Hades? Which he does, looks at her. Because he was basically, looking at the door where Persephone went to. He goes, what happens if I ask you to train someone in magic? In which she goes, a mortal? Mortals can't use magic. He goes, no, a demigod. He goes, but Lord Hades, we cannot have... Before she can even say anything else, basically Persephone comes in with basically a fang. Which she goes, Hades, I got it. In which he looks at Persephone, he goes, is that one of Cerberus' fangs? Which she just nods. Which he basically, Hades would chuckle at this. He goes, of course. Which basically next will be shocked. He goes like, Lady Persephone, I did not know you were here. Which she'll sort of try to bow, which then Persephone goes like, Nix, don't bow to me. We're friends, right? In which she will nod slowly. So she asks, what's this, why is this, happening? Which basically Hades would explain everything as she would basically sit down as Hades basically, helped her. And she goes, oh my gods. Which basically Hades will just nod and goes, I know, it's a lot. He goes, then he's in, yes, grave danger. There are things that need to be planned. His safety is not of most importance since he's not from our world. I can actually raise him. Persephone. She goes, I know, I can basically at least tell him some things, basically. I can, since he's my child, that'll be granted. Maybe he'll basically, will use basically a, skill that no one really uses. Well, or at least some demigods don't use nowadays, which, basically, next we go necromancy. Yes, but who knows, maybe he'll change it. I mean, he's clever, basically, when it comes to imagination. In which Hades would nod. So, a blacksmith will come, and he will look at the person and go like, good, I am Hades, came to Underworld, and I will need your assistance. As then we go to Artemis. So, Artemis is crying. because of because what I said, if you don't remember from part one, basically how I don't want Artemis to basically have her hunters, basically question her, and their loyal, and basically her oath and she broken and stuff. Her enemies to use me to try to get her to do what they want, to ruin her reputation. She basically cannot believe how idiotic, stupid, and selfish I am, and yet she cannot help but, basically cry because of I'm basically because I basically am saying I said that to her just protect her along with myself in a way because she does realize some things will happen since I am basically her kid and I'm a male. In a sense, though, before she realizes it, she realizes basically the danger I'm in, and she basically immediately gets up and she's about to say something, and then she hears her lieutenant goes like, "My lady, is everything all right?" As then she wipes away the tears, she goes, "Yes, so everything's fine." Zoe comes in and goes like, "Are you sure?" She basically, as Artemis looks at her, just nods. She goes, "Yes, I'm gonna go on a solo hunt for a while. You basically are in charge of the camp." She was trying to word everything carefully because she realized it sounded like she's in a rush. But Zoe's like, "My lady, what's the matter? You seem to be," which basically Artemis goes, "Zoe, I don't want to talk about it at the moment. I need to do this right away. I have limited time. So please, let me explain everything after I get back. I promise I'll explain everything to you." In which Zoe can see the desperation in her lady's eyes as she would nod. She would just ask, "Just be careful, my lady, and if you need us, the hunters, will rush to your aid as quickly as possible." In which she would nod. And so, basically, she will grab her bow, any supplies she needs, and run out of camp as quickly as possible. Well, the hunters can't, which everyone's confused as Zoe explains the situation. Now, with basically Athena, since basically Athena is now realizing the danger I'm also in, and the fact is I'm in the same world but whole entire different scenario. She doesn't know what to do. Her basically wisdom can come in handy, but the fact is, there gonna be things about me that it won't awaken until they get claimed. She realizes, so in a sense, she's basically trying to figure it out, and she has some things that could help me. She basically can probably give me a weapon, such as a pen that will turn into a spear, and this pen, though, in pen form, will allow me to basically write in any language. But I also will need to know how to learn, and just because, I basically can read and memorize everything, and basically everything will be in my memory vault. I need to read a lot, and there's limited time she has a feeling. So, she basically will just say, should I give him those? No, they're too dangerous. I made them when I was young and stupid. But, okay, I need to do this. So, she would go over to basically a vault that she hid behind some books, and take out basically a little box and reveals its glasses. She just sighs again, shows, "I wanted to basically read as quickly as I could in my younger days, and accidentally let a mortal take these. And just because when they started reading, hold up. Okay, like I said, when they started reading, basically a book, they died due to basically their brain being mush. A demigod got basically a headache, and nearly went unconscious. But I never gave it to one of my children. But since he's has this amount of blood in him, of gods and a primordial, he should be able to handle it. He needs as much advantage as he can get to basically memorize everything." And then she realized maybe a few basically other books on other pantheons will help. On their legends, myths, and monsters. So she will find that as then she hears someone says, "Athena," and it's Poseidon. As she basically shocked by this, and basically she'll go to her temple entrance, and Poseidon's there, with basically a look that he's doesn't want to do this, but see a determined look in his eyes. And she's like, Poseidon? Why are you here? Which he just says, I'm here to talk. Not to argue, not to fight. Just to talk. Which she'll just say to come on in. And so she'll get like a seat, basically at a table as they both looking at each other. And she basically says, basically in a curious and kind of annoyed tone, basically goes, what do you want, anyways? Talk about that, at least. I was in the middle of something. He just sighs, be like, I want to apologize. She goes, apologize? Do you not realize how late that is? And apologize for what? He goes, everything. Anything they have a problem with me, anything in the near future, I'm apologizing. She basically, narrow her eyes at him. He goes, what's your game? He just sighs. He's about to yell. She sees, but then he calms down and takes a quick breath and goes, my game is to protect, basically, our adopted, basically, child. Which he kind of shivers and nearly gags at that. Which she, Athena, kind of understands the same feeling, but to be fair, both of their bloods are coursing through my veins, so she's just nods and that. She goes, but please never word it like that again. He goes, agreed. She goes, this is the reason why. He goes, normally gods cannot look after their children, but since he's technically basically is a demigod, we can still neglect the rules because he was not born a demigod. He was a mortal that was basically given godly blood and a primordials. So the rules are bent or don't apply to him. And I do not. And I do not want to basically be a burden or have him be burdened. And basically how we basically are going to help raise, train, or any way we can to actually be a part of his life. So, I do not want to butt heads with you, if possible, on basically how it comes to him. Because he's in great danger. As she basically realizes basically what he means and just nods, and then she'll say, so, you realize it too. He was, some help from Amphitrite helped. In which she has a small smile on her face, she goes, I see. So you're determined to basically let go of your pride and ego to admit basically your mistakes for everything in the past between you and me. All our bickering and arguing? He just nods. He goes, I do not want to basically have him basically think we abandoned him. We do not care. His whole entire world is destroyed, and knowing him, he'll probably be thinking to himself that he should have not survived. In which that does bring a frown to Athena and just nods. And so, she'll be like, so what are you going to give him? Which he just says, something that will basically allow it to be armor, and yet it will be basically still an outfit he could wear. It will be basically where he can use his godly energy, magic, or whatever else he'll get in the future to activate it and turn to armor. It'll be taking a while since basically the minerals or materials that we basically are using for it are, in the deep part of the sea that I retrieved many years ago, but didn't know what to do with it until now. So, it's very limited resources, and we have to be very careful with it. Or should I say, the Cyclops have to, since it's limited. In which Athena will nod. He goes, you? She basically just says, a pen to help him write in any language. Basically in these classes to help him to basically read as quickly as he needs to. In which he basically is about to say those are stupid, but then he realizes and just nods. He goes, As always, you are clever, wise girl. In which then basically, for some reason, basically he sees Athena not having a tip, but then have a smirk, and she goes, "Alright then, seaweed brains." And then basically they both have a chuckle and goes, hopefully you do not mind. She goes, I would prefer that my daughter does not ever basically have to be with him, but if it's fated, then it's fated, unfortunately. After what he's willing to do for her, then I do not mind. But if one wrong move from your son, which he does not. Now, though, we basically go back. Well, we go back to basically somewhat as we're viewing basically someone's basically watching. As in the Fates are saying, Lady Chaos, why are you watching him? Which basically, though, and then another Fate, which is on the right, will say, and why are you watching anime? Which basically, Chaos says, to be fair, to know basically him better, I basically view for his memories, but I'm also seeing what he finds so fascinating by anime, and so to also help him when I see fit, I can give him basically ninjutsu lessons, sort of, for scrolls and also chakra control lessons so he can activate his chakra. In which they would just nod, but then they're like blinking, and they just look in chakra like, you gave him chakra? Which Chaos goes, of course I gave him chakra. He needs all the advantage he can get with the amount of monsters he's going to face. In which they just stay silent. But then the one on the left says, have you become an otaku? Which basically Chaos looks away, goes like, maybe. I find it basically everything fascinating with anime. And I already have plenty of things basically I can give him, along with basically a contract of summoning. Which is like, huh? The Fate's just like blank. He goes like, what would be suitable for him for hunting? As he wanted. I believe. She basically ponders, which they like, oh, yes, hunting of for the Monster Hunter world, huh? Which basically Chaos would nod. I got that contract already made for him. He'll earn it when it's nearly time for the basically capture the flag. As then basically we go back to me. As basically I'm looking in the direction where I hear basically the sound of basically that I recognize now. I go like, ah, a forge, a blacksmith in Macon. So that's what I hear. And then I look back at basically everyone else as they're all confused at me. I'm like, sorry, I thought I heard something over there. Anyways, though, so tour, in which Chiron's like, we will, but first, come with me to basically the big house. There's someone that has to introduce himself to you. I'm like, alright. So I followed Chiron. Everyone else was just looking at me, and now they're basically we're talking about basically this new guy came in out of nowhere and such, and they're saying he had no weapons. In which basically Chiron's like, so, how did you get here with no weapons? Did you drop them off? He goes, well, not drop them off. I mean, drop them. Which I'm like, nah. My godly parent basically brought me here. In which Chiron just stops and looks slowly at me. I'm like, it's the truth? How's would I get here with no weapons? I smirk at him. And then he'll nod. He goes, I see. So, may I know anything about you? He goes, the name's Jack. I like video games. Reading sometimes. Hate school. What else I like first? Basically, I guess you could say I like going on walks, running, basically just relaxing, watching TV from time to time, and doing some hobbies. Hey, give me a minute, guys. Alright, sorry. So basically, I think then Chiron asked, like, so, may I ask, do you also know how to fight? Which I'm like, nope. That's why I came here to be trained. So, yeah. Which Chiron's like, I see. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Which I'm like, in due time, Chiron. In due time. As I would think my voice would get a little bit calmer instead of like, sound like basically the way I introduce myself, a little bit cheerful. In which Chiron would nod. And so, we would get to the big house. In which, when I basically see Mr. D, because we would go inside and he'll be at the table still, with who knows how many card sets. Trying to think. It's usually 2, so Chiron being 3. Yeah, so there'd be 3 card sets basically floating. And then basically Mr. D is like, Chiron, you're another kid. Alright. I'll do my normal basically speech. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood and yada yada yada. So, you had to play Chiron, or you're just here just to introduce me to him? Which basically Chiron's like, Mr. D, yes. I was here to introduce basically a new camper to you. Which I'm like, which I just look at basically, basically Dionysus. And I'm like, well then, greetings. Basically, god of madness, wine, and parties, and anything else I don't know. Which, basically, Dionysus would have a, raise an eyebrow, and then he'll smirk. He was like, he goes, you didn't say Lord, but I'll let that slide since basically you are showing respect and realize who I am. Basically, Dionysus has it's a pudgy man who basically has curly hair that basically looks like it's basically purple. And he also basically is wearing basically a tiger stripe shirt. And basically I think it would be like also a red nose, if I'm remembering correctly. In which basically Chiron just, would blink and chuckle and be like, I did not, you could tell it right away. Which I'm just shrugging, I'm like, I'm full of surprises. As Dionysus, or Mr. D realizes something, he goes, boy, why are you basically faking it? Which I just look at him and I'm like, oh, you can easily tell? Which Dionysus scoffs and be like, I'm a god, kid. Of course I could tell. I don't like heroes. And then I basically stops him. I'm like, then you should be glad to know I'm not trying to become a hero. I'm just coming here to be trained so I could survive. In which that would just make them blink. As basically Chiron's speechless, but Dionysus is like, survive? That, why? Don't you want to become a hero? Where the gods would praise you and say legends about you and stories? Why does I just shrug and I'm like, doesn't really matter to me. Heroes basically second thought, maybe in a third. It's just surviving, basically day to day is my only thing I care about. So, I want to get basically my tour done as soon as possible. Be put in basically, I would say, Hermes' cabin. And get basically my training started right away. In which that just shocks basically both of them. Which basically Dionysus just says, to the point, huh? Which I just nod. Which basically Chiron's like, I see. Well then, will you continue your tour? And I look, at Chiron and I just nod. I'm like, oh, Mr. D. Which he's like, yes. If I basically ever go outside the camp, I'll make sure I buy you something. Which he's like, okay. Just confused. So after that, when we leave basically the big house, Dionysus is like, what happened to that kid? Seriously, and why did his aura seem so big. I've basically talked to someone about this. Should I go to Father? No. Maybe I should go to Hera. Shouldn't she be more sensible? Yes. That would be good. As then, basically, he will leave. Now then. Basically, while with Chiron, Chiron notices some, basically, Saturns and nymphs are basically sort of, kind of, falling, but then, moving away. Which I just noticed, I'm like, it's because of Artemis and Persephone. Great. But it doesn't really matter. They can follow or try to get close to me if they want. I'll probably just ignore them. Well, not by much. So basically, Chiron told me, cabin 1, 2, basically 3, and then all the way down. And if I remember correctly, cabin, for Hurry's cabin was cabin, basically, it was between, I think, 6 and 11. Just need to double check that. I was right, it was cabin 11. So basically, it brings me to cabin 11, which I'm just looking at it, and basically, it's worn down. And I see a lot of people in it, and I'm like, they should really basically help out, basically, Hermes. He needs it. And basically, as Chiron like, and this is where the cabin you'll be in until, well, you are determined. Which, basically, I'm like, claimed, huh? Which he just nods slowly. He was like, you know this. He goes, it was explained to me by my godly parent. Which he does nod slowly to that. As then, all of a sudden, Luke comes out. Basically, blonde hair, basically scar over one of his eyes. I think they were blue. Light bluish. Tan skin. Looks like he's 14 or 15. He's like, Chiron. And the new guy. Figure would be here. I'm like, so basically not claimed yet? And I'm like, nope. Doesn't really matter to me, though. They can claim me or not. Which Chiron like, but they goes, helping me get here and claiming me is a two different thing. It's like I need to be claimed just by doing something basically special for them. Or to show I'm strong. Or they're just busy at the moment with their godly duties. Who knows? In which Chiron would just nod as Luke is just like, you're not upset by it? It was, is that weird? Well, there have been people here that have been longer than you that I'm like, ow, well, sorry then. Should I be showing like a little bit more emotion of like anger? Which he's like, up to you, I guess. Anyways, well, from the cabin 11, I can basically, there's not much room, so you can basically sleep anywhere, basically, that has room. I'm like, alright. I'll sleep in one of the corners where I can basically sleep in. If not, then I'll just sleep outside. I have trouble sleeping anyways. In which, basically, Luke's like, the harpies will get you if you do that. And I'm like, I just shrug, but like, who knows? Maybe I'll survive. Which Luke just blinks. He's like, okay. So, yeah, no. Basically, I get into Campaign 11, someone asks, is he claimed? Which Luke says, no, undetermined. Which everyone just groans and such, so I get a sleeping bag, and basically they see my bag. They ask what's in it, I'm like, just some clothing. That's all. In which, basically, that, like, some people are kind of thinking that sucked. So, yeah. So, anyways. So, after basically, like, would get everything, like, set for me just to, like, sleep there for that night, I would basically, walk out of cabin, 11, and I basically just look around, and I'm like, quick look around would do. Maybe I could find someone to train with. So, while I'm walking around, I have my hands in my pocket, and I'm just like, having a blanket expression on my face, and I'm thinking what to do. I can't train with chakra. I had to basically try to see which weapon am I good with. Daggers, swords, sword and shield, spear. Too many options. In which, well, all of a sudden, I hear someone say, "Hey, new guy!" Which I look and I see basically this female who's basically, like, basically brown curly hair. Or, well, yeah, brown hair, may or may not be curly. Basically tall, broad shoulders, I guess, that looks like for a warrior and such. I'm wearing a basically triple X large shirt, which I'm like, hi. She goes, so, you're saying your name is Jack, right? No last name? I go like, don't really remember it, actually. When she just, like, had that cocky smirk on, then she's like, wait, what? He goes, yeah, truthfully, I don't really remember my full name. Well, I don't even know my full name, actually. I just say Jack, because that's all I basically know. So, that may not even be my name. Can I just basically smirk at her, because I'm basically seeing the confusion on her, and then realizing, she goes, wow. He goes, so you only have amnesia? He goes, not per se. I only basically just don't remember my name. It's weird. But, so, how can I help you? Well, she goes, Clarice. What, Clarice, basically. I'm like, let me guess. Since you got two other girls that somewhat have the same facial features at you, you're basically from I'm basically one of the cabins. She goes, yes, I'm Ares' kid. Which I'm like, so the god of war, huh? Interesting. Well, then I think you came at the right time. Which she's like, huh? What do you mean? He goes, I need a training partner. She goes, what? He goes, I honestly just know how to throw a punch, but not full on combat, so I wonder if you can help me. And when she just blinks and be like, okay. In which I just nod and like, lead the way then to the training area. In which she would nod, and let's just say this, yeah, no, I got my butt whooped a lot, but the fact is, she kind of realizes, yeah, I need training, and I need basically, like, something just to, help me. It doesn't have to be, like, any style. It could just be, like, brute force or something. In which, because of basically my ability to, basically combat style, I, get quicker in basically mastering a style of fighting. So we did that for like 2 hours of just basically trying to get me to like learn and then fight just so I can learn. So then basically she, took me around basically the place and tried to make me do some camp activities. So what we found out is I have good aim, and basically I basically can use basically a kayak, or basically just basically on the water, very good. I'm fast, somewhat average, basically speaking. And I would think basically for being going to the forge and such, I'm bad since it's my first time, but they can see basically I didn't know what I was doing, but I had an idea. So they kind of thinking basically I could be one of their basically brothers or sister. Well, brother basically. I was gonna say sister, but brother sister basically them. There, I could be like one of them basically. That's what I mean, because they're both female and male, but probably in the forge working. So, and then basically when it came to like Greek mythology, I took a while to learn how to read ancient Greek, and then I just kept on like reading. So, that's when basically it was like a lunch call. I was just taking, like, still reading an ancient Greek book, in which basically people started thinking I could be Athena's kid, or Apollo's kid, or some basically with the kayaking on the water, basically very good at. No one really knows whose kid I could be. There's so many signs of showing. Even basically Chiron's having a hard time. Chiron's having a hard time basically figuring that one out. And he told Mr. D this, which Mr. D did left, which he was gonna try to say, but yeah. In which, basically, what happens is very simple. Hephaestus is done working on basically the bracelet with multiple different, basically, you can say runes on it, or basically Greek lettering. Basically, she asks, Hera's asking, do you think it'll work? In which he just looks at her and goes, well, while basically I was working on it, I contacted basically Lady Chaos, asked her for any advice. She told me the runes to put on it, and she gave something to me. She goes, wait, what? You can say it's an expansion on my domain. I don't know why until she explained it. I could use it as a trump card, which I will have to work on how to basically control this power. And any more of my children will have it. It'll be kind of one of those rare moments like my basically fireproofing or control over fire. In which she's like, okay, what does it do? In which basically he kind of explains it, which it will be just like ... like what the... As before they can even say anything, Dionysus walks in, and he's like, Lady Hera, there you are. In which she turns around and sees Dionysus, and he basically sees her basically in, well, what Hephaestus were, but a little bit more basically for her to not be hurt. He's like, did you, where she goes, yes, I basically spend time with my son. Getting to know basically why is he always so, well, busy and, always tinkering. Now I see why, and it is quite enjoyable. Not as enjoyable as cooking, but still enjoyable. In which basically Hephaestus just kind of chuckles at that, because now he basically, his mom now sees it as it is fun to spend time in, but it is basically a lot of hard work. So, in a sense, she asks, what is it that basically you wanted, Dionysus? In which he just sighs and be like, well, I came to you for questioning. She goes, oh? Because there's a new camper. He's all over the place. I can tell, because I'm a god, of basically other demigods, basically parentage or, well, a feel for them. I get this feeling he's something all over the place. I don't know what it is. She basically asks, describe him. He goes, basically, brown hair, brown eyes, basically childish face. He's only 12. Basically wearing what I wasn't, in the first video. She goes, oh, I know who he is. Which basically, he basically goes, oh. But then she basically gets serious along with Hephaestus. He goes, and basically both of them say, swear on the sticks you will never tell anyone what we're about to tell you. In which he is shocked by both of them, saying it at exactly the same time, and then says it immediately. And then they tell him. And he's like, and he faints. Yeah, just hold up, everyone. Alright, so yeah. So basically, both of them look at each other and just sigh. And he says, we should have thought of that. He would have fainted. In which Hera just nods. So they help Dionysus up. And so, meanwhile, basically, Artemis has been gathering up monster parts. that she has been tracking down, and she's just been trying to find the best ones out if she can, because she basically, thinks to herself she has to basically make sure I'm basically well prepared and protected at all times. So she's basically making sure I have a lot of basically, you could say, not throwing knives, but just a lot of things that basically will help me. Because she doesn't know how much she's going to need. And she'll even basically, make the bow herself. She's thinking. As, well, meanwhile, well, actually I would say, though, she basically, though, can still remember those words I said to her before I was teleported to Camp Half-Blood, and every time she thinks of it, there's a pain in her heart, and yeah, she just, flinches a bit, and then she gets a determined look just to do this. So yeah, just want to point that out. Now, back at camp, after basically reading basically the first book, I'm like, well, as in I just crack my basically neck, I'm like, time to see if I can access basically my chakra. I think to myself, but I can't do it where there's no one around. So I basically will see Kyron out. I'm like, Kyron. He goes, yes. He goes, is there any place I can, go and gain some experience with, killing a monster? Which he goes, yes, there's the forest over there, but I do not think you'll be safe. Which I just shrug, be like, I just need a weapon and some armor, and then I'm good. He goes, alright. I'll help you. So he helps me basically get, the armor and the weapon and such. I'm like, thanks. I wish it was a little bit more flexible. The movement would have been better then. But it's fine. He goes, I'm sorry. He goes, it's fine, Kyron. He goes, do you know how to use a sword? I'm like, nope. But I like to basically come up on the fly on basically what I can do. See ya. As then basically when I walk away and such, Kyron's thinking, that look in his eye. He's willing to become stronger, but he's also seeking death. I've seen that in too many people. I just hope he comes back alive. So, when I walk into the forest, I don't know this, but some people were watching me and Kyron walk into it where the monsters are, where we can basically fight them. As basically I walk in, and so, but no one's following me because no one's willing to basically just, follow this new guy. Some are thinking I'm just gonna die in there. Because they heard from Clarice that I don't have any training whatsoever. But here's the thing. When I get to an area, I just sigh. And then basically, though, something hits me. I'm like, oh, crap. Two, basically, of the big three gods, blood within me, plus a lot of people on basically the council of the gods of Olympus, and a primordial, plus basically a wife, plus the queen of basically the underworld, bloods within me. And before I even finish my sentence, all of a sudden a monster basically comes out of nowhere as I basically somehow jump out of the way. As I heard basically sound like basically a bird sound, but it says to your right as I jump to my left. And what I see is, well, I can never say it right, so just give me a minute. Okay, I could not say the name right, but it's Nem, E-A-N, Ian, so Nemirian, a lion, basically. The one that's the impenetrable fur. And I'm like, oh, you have to be kidding me! As basically I see it's like, basically drooling, as I'm like, it's because of my scent. I am going to die to something this. as I just get annoyed and I'm just a little bit pissed at myself for not figuring it out. And that's when I feel, basically a little bit, different. I just looking at basically the beast, at the lion, I'm like, I really would like to not have faced a monster like you until I actually get some basically good weapon. But you know what? Since I basically have a bronze basically sword on me, I'm good. As I hear the lion basically growl at me, as I growl at it, I'm like, yeah, same to you, kitty. As I just, that's like a look basically of it being pissed. I'm like, oh, really? Come on then. Let's dance, furball. As it just roars at me and it just basically runs at me. Just me, though. Basically, getting this weird feeling. As all of a sudden, basically, I get these flashes of memories in my head. As basically, I know what it is. As I don't know how, but my body instantly is doing this. Basically, as I just start doing hand signs, and then basically somehow I activate using chakra, which I'm thinking, wait, this is all by instinct. What the? This can't be. As then I just say, you know, I just would probably say, Mokuton. Basically, it's forest. It's basically probably to do with forest or basically tree wrapping vines. I do need to check that. Give me a minute. Okay, so basically, since I realized I basically probably can't do something like that right away. I'll be like, what style? What clone jutsu? As in all of a sudden, multiple different clones basically come, out of nowhere, out basically from the trees. As the lion, mammalian lion basically is in shock. As then basically all the crazy clones look at me. As I look at it. It's like I'm like, distract it. Three of you distract it. Basically, two of you attack. And basically, well, and I would just look at, because I would say about, like, since there's, like, a whole bunch of trees around me, I would say I made, like, 10. So I said 3, 2, so I got, like, I got 3 more. And basically I'm like, one of you stay back, and while 2 of you go around, see if there's any more monsters coming around. And basically, they nod and just, like, run off. Basically doing their thing, their order. So the 3 are distracting it. Basically, they're dodging. And I'm realizing I'm basically instantly using chakra as I'm just kind of getting. I'm not mad, but I'm kind of happy about that. But the fact is, I'm kind of a little bit pissed that I'm basically doing it all from instinct, which I don't even know how I'm even doing it. In which, meanwhile, Chaos is just smirking at that, which she's like, huh. So, basically, since he has Athena's blood in him, basically his memory of, her basically got kids can basically remember things easily, even if for 5 years in their vault. But since he basically has the chakra, his body or his mind is instantly going to it to help him, since he knows he has it. And since basically he's seen the hand signs for certain techniques already, he can do it instantly, but he's not liking it. And he wasted a lot of chakra, he does not realize it. Oh well. But I want to see what he can do, though. So, as basically, the blades are basically bouncing off and they're dodging, they're basically jumping off the trees using chakra. As basically, the clone that's next to me, like, what are we going to do? We can't use our Rasengan or Shidori. Basically, I'm just like, not many attacks basically can kill it. Can you use one binding jutsu to keep it in place? He goes, you're still going to try to use Shidori or Rakiri. Which I go, do we have a choice? I may be basically out of chakra, but I gotta do it. I'm not dying to a big giant lion furball. Which basically all of a sudden the clone laughs at that. He was like, alright. Man, you really basically. Yeah, I know. But, basically I didn't have an idea, but like, actually scratch that. Let's see if basically I can try to basically access basically lightning. release, put basically some lightning into the blade, which basically the clone just grins at that. He was like, all right. Kind of funny how basically we're doing this all instinct like, which instinctly or instinct, right? Basically, I'm like, it's annoying. Which the clone just sighs and goes, can't really blame you on that one. We suddenly got this power and we know how to use it. It's like we got it memorized. Which I'm like, did you just make an Axel reference? But instead of we got memorized, it goes, he goes, got it memorized. Which basically the clone just kind of looks at me blankly and goes like, yeah, let's just kill this thing. I just nod. So basically what happens is I basically try to basically call out to basically the chakra and basically trying to basically see which element I am. While the clones basically, gonna do the hand signs for a fire style fireball jutsu. Just or should I say basically Phoenix Flower Jutsu, in which no control, nothing, just able to do it, wastes its chakra a large amount of it, which I already, did, then I feel another power just like, it's not a crack, but I feel like basically static. I feel like, my hair stick up and all of a sudden, basically everyone can hear basically the sound of basically, like chirping. Which I just open up my eyes and the blade's actually covered in electricity, which I can feel the drain on me. I'm like, wow, I actually did it. Which basically the lion knows it's in danger and basically growls at me, which I just look at it. I'm like, you think you can keep it busy? In which basically it just smirks and goes like, yeah. So basically it joins in. Basically, I'm just, still standing and waiting for the perfect moment as basically when the lion, actually is coming closer, actually wouldn't basically swipe away and just run at me, the clones basically will run towards it, but not fast enough since I have not been trained in physical wise. It will just basically lunge at me, and just me basically just waiting, get into a stance, and basically I know I'm gonna die. I basically can feel it. And basically, instead of being afraid, I just clench onto that feeling of fear, and then basically focus, also basically on, the one emotion I can still feel, rage. As then with a war cry of basically just pure, anger, as when it has the mouth open, I basically lunge, you can say I just jump towards it, and basically you can say lunging the sword right into its mouth before I even basically, you know, bite onto my arm, piercing. Basically, I will be, going for it because it'll be like coming downwards. So I lunge it upwards into the brain, killing it. As then basically it'll turn to golden dust immediately as I just land, and basically I stop pouring chakra into the blade as I just on the ground basically huff and puff, and I'm like, I need chakra control exercises. I'm surprised I'm not passed out yet. And which makes I hear someone just basically, just clapping as I look, and I basically eyes wide. I'm like, Mother Persephone? She goes, I was actually about to interfere, but when you came up with that plan, it was reckless, around the fly, and not basically well out thinking, but still, good job. And basically she would see basically the pelt of the lion. She would come over and basically pick it up, and they basically hand it to me as it would turn basically into a trench coat. Well, I'm like, a jacket would be better. As it would turn into basically a jacket. I'm like, cool. So, I would slowly put that on. I'm like, so, you're here. I thought She goes, well, I wanted to see how you're doing and also tell you a few things. Which basically, she'll tell basically about her, if she ever has children, what they'll get. So, I'm like, so because you're also the queen of the underworld, I also get basically necromancy taught to. But I can control hellhounds or basically harpies, along with basically also plant growth and trees. Because of maybe Artemis in you, she does not. Like, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. I'm only gonna tell you that much because you need to learn everything else on your own. Okay? Which I'm just like, yeah. But then all of a sudden I start feeling a little bit refreshed now. I'm like, huh. I guess basically your domains are activating. Well, that and Artemis is. I'm getting energy now. Which she goes, good. You did put yourself quite through it, along with basically superhuman, basically, well, powers are activating. Which I'm just like, I forgot about the other ones. I just instantly did the whole entire chakra thing. She goes, wait, chakra? I'm like, yeah. It's kind of from Naruto. You know, the anime. She goes, oh, so that's what these clones are for. I'm like, yeah. Basically, some basically the other two clones come back, and one of them basically is missing an arm, but has basically, some basically, I would say, not, well, probably a fang. Yeah, a couple of fangs, basically, from, a hellhound or two. And a fang, yeah, a fang from a hellhound, and basically another pelt from it. And basically, another one would basically come back probably with the most funniest thing, probably some maybe griffin feathers. I'm trying to remember from Great Mythology, like from the Percy Jackson books. Um, trying to remember. Yeah, I think there's like griffins in it. Let me double check. Okay, yeah, some griffin feathers and a claw. Claws, which I'm like, what the? Did you just kill a griffin? Which he basically says, yeah. He goes, how? Replacement jutsu. I'm like, replacement jutsu? Yes. Well then. Which I think basically we all hear Persephone just giggle at that. Which I'm like, I guess there's superhuman basically reflexes and agility and everything else does kick in, and since I was in the forest and such, the domains helped out a lot. I got lucky, huh? She goes, uh-huh. You did. But you do, and that's why you're here to basically train basically even better now. So you're gonna try your best, which I'm just nodding. Well, I mean, I have to learn everything else with my other domains. Well, the powers I would get from just being your guys' kid. She goes, alright. Well, I can't spend much long before Zeus, well, not Zeus, I mean, before who basically finds out. I'm like, yeah. And, I guess you guys are, well, you and Dad are trying to help me? Which basically goes, I have a feeling most of us are going to try to help you. Which, I'm just blinking because before she even came to visit, Hera basically asked her to, basically talk to her. In which it was in basically, Hephaestus's basically, basically workshop. And basically Hephaestus says, Persephone, are you going to go visit him? In which she does nod. He goes, here then, give them this. He's going to be in great danger, which she goes, we know. Me and Hades already figured it out. This is from God Eater, right? The bracer that basically held with the oracle cells. Wow, can't believe that you can remember or say that right. Sounds so foreign, which basically Hephaestus goes, yes, I know. Fascinating, basically, anime and science and all that. But he needs it before any strong monsters find him. He may be in danger and die way too soon. If he does survive, let's hope he's in a forest. And basically, some type of instinct basically kicks in, which basically she nods, and that's when she appeared after, right when I was gonna kill the lion. So, I'm like, so basically she goes, oh yes, Hephaestus and basically Hera want me to give you this. Which I just eyes why I'm like, that's a God art bracelet, God eater bracelet. She goes, uh huh, you have to put it on. It'll help basically reduce your sense of not many monsters to come after you. Or it won't be that strong. And this way you can basically work on your powers in secret. Without any monsters trying to attack you. Which I just grin and I basically put it on and I would just basically, have a small smile and say, thanks, Mom. Can you tell Mom Hera and basically Father and Dad or Father basically Hephaestus, I say thanks. She nods and then all of a sudden I hug her, which kind of makes her surprised, but she smiles and basically she does hug back. She goes, just be careful, alright? I would nod, basically. I'll try. So after that, the wood clones be like, we're going. As basically they do hit me, basically the claws, basically from the griffin and the hellhound, and the pelt and the feathers. And then they just, go back to just being wood and just fall down and, flowers all around or something. Which I'm like, alright then. I put them in my pocket for now, the items. No way, I put them down and then do the multi-shadow clone jutsu, and I only do about maybe 40 to 30 clones because I'm tired from doing everything that I did. Which I'm surprised I was energized that quickly. Which I'm like, alright guys, try to do chakra control exercise of tree walking or leaf sticking exercise. Take your time and be slow. I'm basically going to go back to camp and basically train physically. Alright? Which they nod and such, and they try to do their best. So I pick up my items and get back to camp. In which, when I get there, I would go to the big house real quick, as everyone's looking at me, which they don't understand what type of jacket I'm wearing. But when I get there, Kyron and basically Mr. D, we're talking, but Kyron's in shock. I'm like, hi, Mr. D, Kyron. As Kyron looked at me, and he goes, I swore I would not say anything, but I did ask them, which, basically, they were here. They told him, and he swore. I'm like, oh. He goes, what happened to you? I'm like, well, I was attacked by the Nemilian lion. Basically the imperial, basically skin. And I survived. Plus, I was going to be attacked by a hellhound and a griffin. But they were already taken care of. He goes, let me guess. Some weird mojo, whatever. Which then, I'm like, and then all of a sudden Chaos comes in and it just says, chakra. I gave him chakra. Oh, by the way, here you go. You impressed me, so you deserve this early. Which I'm like, thanks. Just use chakra in the seals. You got everything. Which I'm like, you got me everything? Yes, I pulled a few strings. You're welcome. And basically, she just disappears. I'm like, because she patted my head, I'm like, why do I feel like I was an animal to her or something? Oh well. So, in a sense, just Mr. D's like, I am sorry to hear about what happened to you, but the fact is, you need to be trained very quickly. So whatever that scroll has, do whatever. Yeah. I'll even tell basically the freaking harpies not to kill you. So you can train, because I'm not dealing with you dying to have their basically angry parents basically after me. Like, it was basically Mother Hera, wasn't it? He just nods quickly. I'm like, alright. Thank you. As I just leave. Which basically, before I'm about to leave, but then Chiron's like, you still have to go into camp 11. I'm like, I know. Don't worry. So after I leave, Chiron's like, this cannot be possible, right? It has to be something against the rules, which just Dionysus or Mr. D's like, no one ever said anything about adoption, or basically being from another dimension, and I need a drink. As for some reason, I would think all of a sudden, alcohol would, basically, just a wine would appear and Dionysus did not made it. Which it has a note saying, from Chaos. He says, thank you, Chaos, I needed this. As he just drinks. There's no rumbling, nothing. And so that's where we're going to end it off, everyone. Hope you guys have a nice day, night, wherever you are, and bye.